What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Good Success Quick Tips. I am Josh Culler, and back with me again, I got Tom Olson, and he is going to talk about what to be thinking about before a rehab. Now, Tom is no newbie when it comes to rehabbing. He has done hundreds of these over the past, however long you've been doing rehabbing, 20, 25 years,
Not
30
quite
years,
that long,
40 years,
probably like
that.
10 or 15 years.
Okay, that makes more
15
sense.
years.
I'm trying to make him
Older than I am.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but he's going to talk about that, and this is a talk that he actually had with the entire company earlier this week, and it was extremely helpful to everybody, no matter what department they were in, whatever they're doing in the rehab process. So this is going to be awesome, and we're looking forward to it. What do you have for us today, Tom?
So what I'm going to talk about today is really more about before you start a job. It's not in the middle of a job. It's not the actual physical process of what order you do a job, a construction job in with a rehab, but it's what you should be doing before you even start the rehab. And I think this is probably one of the most important steps of a rehab. And if you're not doing this currently, you ought to put this rehab, for us in our business, it's called rehab prep stage. So you ought to put this inside your own process and do this if you possibly can. So for me, I've kind of outlined this into 4 different stages. And if you guys know me, I love PREP. So the very first one is going to be purpose. So for us, we do active turnkey rehabs, we do turnkey rehabs, we do fix and flip rehabs, we do hotel where we are just kind of getting the place ready to go and it'll just be FHA ready. And sometimes we're just cleaning it, or sometimes we're just doing a rent ready, maybe turnover type of rehab. So first thing to understand is the purpose of the rehab. Why are you going to do it? And in purpose, you also have to know your budget, right? Because like you may want the Taj Mahal, but you only got a budget. So you need to know what the entire budget is. You need to know what each line item budget is. You need to have a material budget, labor budget. All those things got to be predetermined ahead of time. And then after that, so again, we're still kind of under purpose. You got to choose your finished materials. So your flooring, your fixtures, your lights, your granite countertops or regular countertops, your kitchen cabinets, your roofing, your landscaping, all that kind of stuff has to get kind of picked out. That's the purpose. That's where you're going, right? So figure out your purpose of the rehab first. The second one is responsibility. And I think this is very important. If you don't outline this up front and know what the upfront expectation is for each person involved. So who's your designer? Knowing who is ultimately in charge for this rehab. You know, for us, I work with many different owners, so I need to know who's the owner of this house, or who, if there's going to be an extra, who do I need to go to? I need to know who's the project manager on this particular project. I need to know if I'm going to hire outside subs, who they are and what they're responsible for. So then at this point, I also go through the whole rehab itself and then start listing out, demo, framing, flooring, all the actual different pieces of the rehab themselves, so the actual process that you're going to go through, and then outline who's going to be responsible for each one of those line items or each one of those mini phases or trades, so to speak, in that rehab. So that's the next thing. Who's going to be responsible for ordering materials? And with materials, you might have the big finished stuff and you might have all the little stuff. Who's responsible for that? Outline that up front. Who's responsible for approving payments? This is a very important thing. You don't want just like you don't just want the laborer that's out on your job approving somebody to get paid, right? You want to make sure that you know who's in charge of approved payments, who's ultimately responsible to make sure that person gets paid, and who's going to check that job. So who's going to do weekly checks? For us, we do weekly pictures, and we kind of do a weekly update to the investor and all that kind of stuff. So making sure that you know who's going to do that. Who is that final decision maker, though, is very important to have. So that's responsibility. Then I've created with the E, so PREP is expedite or exhort. And if you just read the definition of exhort in the dictionary, it basically means to push somebody to do something, right? So you've got to have a plan to do that, right? And it really all boils down to a schedule. It boils down to dates on the schedule and timelines in which certain trades have a certain amount of time to get things done. And if you'll do that all up front, your whole job will go so much smoother, I can promise you. All this prep work up front will help prepare you to get that 4-week job done in 4 weeks, or that 6-week or the 8-week job done in 6 or 8 weeks. If you wait until the middle of the project and you're doing this, all this stuff, it takes 10 times the amount of effort to do it if you do it during the actual rehab. So making sure that you have a schedule for permits, demo, material, when different material has to get ordered. All stages have to be kind of like outlined, when the painter's going to be in there, when the flooring guy's going to be in there, when the granite's going to come, when does the granite need to get measured, when does it need to get delivered, who's going to do final touch-up, who's going to do punch list. All that stuff needs to get outlined up front. And then the very last thing is to actually put the plan together. So you kind of got the plan together, but the very last thing is passion. And passion is like, once you have this whole prep stage, you have your plan in place, you've got to communicate this to every single person that's involved. So don't wait until like week 3 to communicate to the painter, I need you there on week 4. Communicate to him way upstream here. As soon as it's ready, say, let every single person know that has a responsibility, that this is your responsibility and this is your timeline to get it done. Also, set reminders for yourself. So during, if for instance the cabinets come in week 2, and they get installed at the end of week 2, as soon as the cabinets are installed, a lot of times for us, when we do granite, for instance, we have to have the granite company come in and measure at that point. We want to make sure we're setting reminders for ourselves that knows we need to call them ahead of time. We need to make sure that those things happen on those particular days. So set reminders for yourself, set reminders for your contractors, and set reminders for anybody else that might need to know. Plan to hold people accountable though. So find a reason and find a way to be able to hold your contractors accountable and to hold your employees accountable, and plan it out and just make sure it all happens. And at the very end, the very last part of passion is make sure you plan out your part in the deal. So what do you need to do? Make sure that if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that you don't expect other people to do things that they're supposed to do. But so you make sure that you plan out your part and make sure you do your part in the rehab as well.
Awesome. Is that all you got?
No, that's it. I appreciate your time, and I think that this is something that will help you have a very successful rehab.
Yeah, and this is a lot of work that goes into this, but it's going to save you a lot of headaches in the entire downstream process. So absolutely. But he trained this to the group, like I said earlier this week, and it is just extremely helpful. I think everybody got value out of it. So thanks for sharing that with us, Tom, and we appreciate that, and we will see you on the next episode. All right, so that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you give this a big thumbs up if you did like this and it brought you value. Make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube or like our Facebook page, however you're watching this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.